Oh shit, he's still alive. He's back again. Back again like a bad headache. Ain't gonna go away. Now, where am I? What am I about to do? The late great Bobbie Short, forgot about her. Didn't forget about her. We haven't heard from her for a couple days, so I think we're going to hear from her. First, what do we got here? A little chilly this morning. It's funny. I probably look like one of those non-stop rednecks that just wears camouflage everywhere he goes every morning, don't I? But I don't. I've got, right outside my door, I have 2 stand-up clothing racks. It has all of my hunting and fishing clothing, waders and jackets and everything on those racks right there. So as soon as I come in the shop, I gauge how chilly it is and I grab a jacket, grab a hat, throw her on. And then I sit here in my camo. It's handy. I can't stand, like for me, the amount of times that I get up 4 o'clock in the morning for hunting or fishing or whatever. You just want to sneak out and not disturb anybody. So it's just way easier for me to just wake up, tiptoe out of the house, into the shop, into the bat cave, and get my gear on and go. It's handy. Handy. Now, it's a little chilly this morning. Animals are fed. I don't know if you figured out yet, but I've been running this place solo for a handful of days. Now, let's get into it. This is... I'm going to get fairly down in one beginning. Gold. All right. Burns. A highly respected Canadian government-paid Indian agent, published a most extensive compilation of early Chehalis First Nation reports derived from the regions surrounding and including British Columbia's Morris Mountain. His recordings were uniquely personal between him and his students who lived on the reservation. Beyond acknowledging Burns' use of the term Sasquatch, there was additional terminology attributed to him. He was the first to author the word Saskahua, Saskaaua, an early term he learned from his charges on the Chehalis Indian Reserve, located 60 miles from the city of Vancouver, British Columbia. While Saskahua is a lesser-known term than Sasquatch, I placed its importance in how it translates. Place of the wild men. Men. The Indians of the Saskahua district, called the Hair Giants, Saskahua Swekwe. The giants, it was said, spoke in the Douglas dialect. To that end, Burns penned these words. Excuse me. Quote, Indian legends tell of 2 tribes of Sasquatches who dwelt in this section of the country. They were deadly enemies and practically exterminated one another, fighting hand-to-hand with war clubs on the mountainsides. Skeptics may laugh at the idea of primitive man in the shape of 8-foot giants still living in British Columbia. Nevertheless, I have collected a good deal of evidence tending to prove that the Sasquatch may not be extinct. End quote. The importance of that paragraph and its detail should not be lost on those in serious research. There may have been others who recorded stories of haired men in that region, but none so well published as Burns. Who better to know the relationship between the First Nation people and the Sasquatch than a man who lived among them and was trusted by the Chehalis? That Burns' revelations were published probably shocked the straight-laced readers of that era. Unknowingly, Burns clearly helped mold the foundation for for hominid understanding about the Sasquatch, and for that we should all be grateful. Despite John Green's attempts to minimize Burns' enormous contributions to Sasquatch research, Burns' great contributions should be acknowledged. Burns, for his part, actually conducted the interviews with the Chehalis he lived among in that day. Conversely, newspaperman Green only served to paraphrase the work Burns had already done. Burns was a resident of the Chehalis soil. Green was not. Who better to know the relationship the Chehalis had with the Sasquatch than John Burns? Here we go, the early stages of researchers going at each other's throats. Burns' written assemblage cornered the market on what was known at the time and since regarding the abduction of Indian maidens and other behaviors unique to the Sasquatch. Above and beyond the determination of Sasquatch DNA, if he hadn't lived among the Chehalis, and if he hadn't chronicled the traditions and the stories of that time, he would know virtually nothing of Sasquatch behavior in that region. My admiration for Burns' work is noticeable. Excuse me, got a frog in the go here in my throat. John Green, on the other hand, went to great lengths to dismiss Burns' contribution. But in truth, the same can be said of Green's 4,000 count database. His card index collection, a copy in my possession since 2002, shows most of those reports were sent to him by other field persons. And some of those entries showed no sign that Green ever investigated all he counted. So exactly how much of the data attributed to and in Green's numbers should be minimized? By my count, I would toss out 40% of Green's index cards were just a couple of second and third hand sentences are written, lending them unworthy to be counted in the end tally of 4,000, which makes up Green's database. Excuse me. Some of those contributing field investigators in the 50s and 60s and 70s never had so much as a conversation with Green, yet the details of their data became gospel once in Green's possession. It is suffice to say that Green did not investigate or have personal contact with all the informants listed on these typed and handwritten index cards. There is also no indication in the files that the contributing field persons who sent Green these reports ever investigated the accounts before they were sent off to Green. In fairness, the negative criticism Green launched on Burns can be said of Green, and that was my point, which I intentionally overstated. Mr. Burns recounted a number of well-authenticated stories of encounters with the early wild men who carefully avoided contact with civilization. White men of the day generally thought the wild man extinct. The Chehalis knew otherwise. Perhaps the strangest and most terrifying experience by Indian women ever had with the Sasquatch was one related by a Chehalis woman named Sarapen Long. Serephine Long. At the time Burns interviewed her, Seraphine was very old. She claimed that when she was a young girl, she was kidnapped by a giant Sasquatch to take to the abode of the hairy monsters for nearly a year. She told Burns the story many times over. He set down her words as accurately as possible. Here we go. What happened to Seraphine Long? Here is some of what John Burns wrote. Quote, I should explain that among the natives of Canada, both Indians and Eskimos, there is a shortage. There's a shortage of marriageable women. Probably a similar condition exists among the Sasquatch, thus explaining the action of the wild giant in this case. I should also like to add that although her present-day photograph hardly bears this out, the evidence of her contemporaries goes to show that in her girlhood, Seraphine Long was considered one of the most beautiful girls in her tribe. Here is Seraphine's story. Quote, I was walking toward home one day many years ago carrying a big bundle of cedar roots and thinking of the young brave Qualak Thunderbolt I was soon to marry. So that's a young man's name. Suddenly, at a place where the brush grew close and thick beside the trail, a long arm shot out, and a big hairy hand was pressed over my mouth. Then as I suddenly lifted up into the arms, then I as suddenly lifted up into the arms of a young Sasquatch. I was terrified. I fought. I struggled with all my might. In those days I was strong, but it was no good. The wild man was as powerful as a young bear, holding me easily under one arm. With his other hand, he smeared tree gum over my eyes, sticking them shut so that I could not see where he was taking me. He then lifted me to his shoulder and started to run. He ran on and on for a long time, up and down hills, through thick brush, across many streams, never stopping to rest. Once he had to swim a river, and then perhaps I could have gotten away, but I was so afraid of being drowned that I held on tightly with my arms about his neck. Although I was frightened, I could not but admire his easy breathing, his great strength and speed of foot. After reaching the other side of the river, he began to climb and climb. Presently, the air became very cold. I could not see, but I guessed that we were close to the top of a mountain. Notice Cave's language, use of fire and animal skins. Sarapen continues, quote, "At last, the Sasquatch stopped hurrying. Then he stooped over and moved slowly as if feeling his way along a tunnel. Presently, he laid me down very gently, and I heard people talking in a strange tongue I cannot understand. The young giant next wiped the sticky tree gum from my eyelids, and I was able to look around me. I sat up, and I saw that I was in a great big cave. The floor was covered with animal skins, soft to touch, and much better preserved than we preserved them. A small fire in the middle of the floor gave all the light there was. As my eyes became accustomed to the gloom, I saw that beside the young giant who had brought me to the cave, there were two other wild people, a man and a woman. To me, a young girl. They seemed very, very old, but they were active and friendly. And later I learned that they were the parents of the young Sasquatch who had stolen me. When they all came over to look at me, I cried and asked them to let me go. They just smiled and shook their heads. From then on, I was kept a close prisoner. Not once would they let me go out of the cave. Always one of them stayed with me when the other two were away. They fed me well on roots, fish, and meat. After I learned a few words of their tongue, which is not unlike the Douglas dialect, I asked the young giant how he caught and killed the deer, mountain goats, and sheep that he often brought into the cave. He smiled, opening and closing his big hairy hands. All right now I'm telling you, they are near the Fraser Valley. Guarantee you they are. Upper Fraser Valley. I asked the young giant how he caught and killed the deer, mountain goats, and sheep that he often brought into the cave. He smiled, and closing his big hairy hands, I guessed that he just laid in wait, and when an animal got close enough, he leaped, caught it, and choked it to death. He was certainly big enough, quick enough, and strong enough to do so. When I'd been in the cave for about a year, I began to feel very sick and weak and could not eat that much. I told this to the young Sasquatch and pleaded with him to take me back to my own people. At first he got very angry, as did his father and mother, but I kept on pleading with them, telling them that I wished to see my own people again before I died. I really was ill, and I suppose they could see that for themselves because one day after I cried for a long time, the young Sasquatch went outside and returned with a leaf full of tree gum. With this he stuck down my eyelids as he had done before. Then he again lifted me to his big shoulder. The return journey was like a very bad dream, for I was lightheaded and in much pain. When we recrossed the wide river, I was almost swept away. I was too weak to cling to the young Sasquatch, but he held me with one big hand and swam with the other. Close to my home, he put me down and gently removed the tree gum from my eyelids. When he saw that I could see again, he shook his head sadly, pointed to my house, and then turned back into the forest. My people were all wildly excited when I stumbled back into the house, for they had long ago given me up as dead. But I was too sick and weak to talk. I just managed to crawl into the bed, that night, and I gave birth to a child. The little one only lived a few hours, for which I've always been thankful. I hope that I never again shall see a Sasquatch. The little one lived for only a few hours, for which I've always been thankful. I hope that I never again shall I see a Sasquatch. Whoa. Sarapen Long's story, for what it's worth, is the only one of its kind by a First Nation woman in the last century who bore witness personally to her ordeal. This sort of thing, or any mention of sex, was not acceptable conversation in those days, and had Burns seen fit not to publish her account, we would never have known about it or any of the other Sasquatch behaviors she mentioned, to include animal skins, fire, and what they ate. Wow. How's that one? Pretty tough to wrap your melon around that, isn't it? A lot of that's familiar with the Albert Ostman story, who was kidnapped in BC, and obviously not too far away from where she ended up either, from what his description of where the extreme climbing, crossing of valleys and going high up over passes while he was contained in a sleeping bag in his tent, I believe. Same deal, he described the breathing and each step, how much he gained in elevation with each step of this thing, packing him off. That would really, really suck, wouldn't it not? A further reference to Indian women being kidnapped by the primitive haired giants of British Columbia appeared in this newspaper article in 1934. In the article, the term boogeyman replaces Sasquatch. Article courtesy Scott McLean. Boogeyman apparently was the term used around Harrison Mills, British Columbia in 1934. And the headlines read, Boogeyman of Indian tribe appears again in Harrison Mills, BC. March 3rd, 1934, Indian children clung to their mother's apron strings today for the terrible Sasquatch, a giant, hairy, and horrid, is on the prowl again. For hundreds of years, the Sasquatch has been a fearsome boogeyman to the Northwest Indians. None had been reported for 30 years, but horror swept the lodges of the primitive Chehalis tribe today, as word was whispered that the hairy wild one had returned. Frank Dan was first to report sighting the monster. He went out into the night to see why his dog was barking so furiously, and came face to face with a hairy giant, tall, muscular, and nude. The Sasquatch and scores of other demons are very real to the Chehalis. They are things of horror, emerging to snatch an Indian into the unknown and to devour babies. Distributed by the Associated Press, the story was picked up and published by the Lima News, northeastern Ohio. Scott McLean. My thought on the idea that Sasquatch eats human babies is different. I don't think for a minute they devour children. It's more likely they raise them up wild and use them as an addition to their gene pool. That could account for so many of the reports being of lesser size than those of giants. Maybe. Remember there was a truck driver saw a male and a female in the ditch on the highway in the middle of the night, pissing rain, past Hope. And he said that it looked like a blonde woman, dirty, all gnarled up, but looked like a beautiful blonde chick, and one ugly son of a bitch with her, huge. And that truck driver saw them both cowering in the ditch on the side of the highway when he drove by. Okay, hold on. Here's another one. Let's keep one more going with this theme. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this native word that starts in the title. It's S''CWENE''Y''T''. Sikwiniti. Kidnappings on the Colville Reservation. I first tediously word processed and uploaded the wonderful work of Dr. Ed Fuchs in the year 2000 with his gracious permission. Since that time, many websites have referred to Dr. Fuchs's work with the Colville Indians off my website. Along with the theme here of the hair giants kidnapping women, Fuchs recorded several such incidents that occurred within the Colvilles. Nobody tells it better than Dr. Fuchs, citing his original words penned in his 1992 book, Sikwiniti and the Stick Indians of the Colvilles. This excerpt. Excuse me. Sikwiniti. Something's running around out there. Was known by the Spokane Indians to interact also with human females. One girl was kidnapped by the Sikwiniti people and not returned until she was a grown woman. When returned, she was found asleep along the banks of a stream, and upon being awakened, could not remember where she had been during the long period of time that she had been missing. That's interesting. In another case, a young virgin of marriageable age between 14 and 18 suddenly disappeared. Skewinity was reported to like the smell of virgins. An intensive search was conducted, but to no avail. After being gone for a considerable period of time, reported as 2 or 3 years, she was returned, but smelled so strongly of Squinity, God, I can't do this one, I should just call him Sasquatch for the story, that the people could hardly get near her. She was fed and cared for, but had to be kept outside because of the smell. No one, men, wanted her. When returned, she was not wearing the same clothes as when she left. Was never in her right mind again, being completely mentally disoriented, and appeared to be more animal than human. She was not vicious, was able to give some account to where she had been, and had not been molested. An account to where she had been, and had not been... What? She was not vicious, was able to give some account of where she had been, and had not been molested. An informant reports having ascended a hill in the early hours of the morning as it was just beginning to become daylight. Dr. Ed Fuchs's work, The Native Americans of Washington State, is unprecedented and extraordinary. I highly recommend everyone in research to review his writings. All right, there we go. We got to hear from the late, great Bobbie Short again. All right, I'll leave that right there so I don't lose my spot. Abductions. I don't know about you guys, but I am absolutely, thoroughly convinced that there is, there's more than, I don't know how to even describe it. We've got the typical Sasquatch people that run around here in British Columbia that I'm very familiar with, from reading books and seeing what I've seen and hearing the stories, listening to the eyewitnesses that I've spoken to. And there's a difference. There's definitely a difference in some of the other experiences and descriptions people are sending in. Of all the people that I have spoke to here before I realized I'm doing the wrong thing, intentionally looking for them, I didn't speak to one person that saw glowing eyes. I didn't speak to one person directly who had seen glowing eyes, I don't think. Not here in British Columbia. Most of the experiences that really stand out to my mind, especially where I was previously living. I mean, where I was in the Pemberton area, Pemberton, Lillooet, Whistler, Squamish, at that time, it was far easier for me to find somebody who had seen one of these beings than it was to find somebody who had seen a cougar. And cats are all over the place in this country, this part of the country. And I think my count was 44 people I came up with back then. I spoke with directly. Man, I'm trying to remember. I don't think I heard. No, I heard twice. Definitely, my friend's son saw one. Its eyes were glowing. But I think he might have said he thought it was from the headlights. There you go. There you go. That has been reported to me here. Directly. I'm looking at the eyes of somebody I know back then, or lived in my community. But there's something different going on between flavors of these beings that people are running into. There's more than one. There's a lot more going on out there than what's typically going on here in British Columbia. But I don't know if you noticed or not, there just is next to nothing. I think, 2? Maybe 2? Maybe even squeak 3 of the Dog Man description episodes going on here in BC. And look, this past while, we haven't heard anything about Dog Man for a while, have we? getting wrote in about. So that's something that's really alarming me. The demon thing, I think, is possibly quite real. The bad spirit thing. Yeah, I'm starting to daydream. My brain's running circles. I gotta get more people to listen to here while I'm sitting in front of the camera. Excuse me. Obviously, I don't think about too much before I hit record on here, which is not a bad thing, right? The BS free zone. Who have I missed in this column? Oops, what's that? Okay, this is titled. Here's one I nearly missed. Had to go down a bit. Got a whole bunch of new ones. Sasquatch story. Third attempt. That sounds like a familiar title, but we've had that a bunch. Maybe I read it, maybe I didn't, but it's not marked as read. Hi Steve, I found your YouTube recently and I've been really enjoying your videos. One of the things that impresses me the most is your experience in the woods and how you stand up and assert that there are indeed Sasquatch out there. One of the things I've found is that most guys who have spent any amount of time in the outdoors have a story. One that generally has to be pulled out of them in confidence and after a couple of beers. They never volunteer their stories. The damnedest people you wouldn't expect are the ones with a story. Agreed. I live in Pocatello, Idaho. Famous for potatoes as well as... Yeah, I'm not promoting that name. I've kept an open mind and I have compared notes in his latest book. I've actually sought him out to speak with him because I don't want to experience the same thing that I get from my friends and family members. I have a story too. You know, I'm going to back up on that. Quick mention. Today, this day and age, I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but I don't associate myself really with many of the so-called big names, right? Why? Why would I? And it's, I find it a little odd in a way, just me, that people will hold another human being up here and believe they need to report to that person over there because everybody does. And they're in front of the camera all the time. Don't make sense to me. The one thing that I'm learning, because of all of you, is the only person you need to report to is you. You need to accept what you saw, what you know, and then share it with the people. That gets far greater results faster and better and does a lot more good than not, is sharing with the people and not thinking you need to find one of these so-called big names from the past and seek them out and talk to them. I hope I'm making sense. I'm probably not making too much sense today. I hope I am. But then again, who gives a shit if I'm not, right? Blah, blah. Sorry. Moving along. I just get knee-jerked. Like, what? Why would you have to go seek out that douchebag? Who gives a shit about what he has to say or thinks or any of them else? That's what probably I'm trying to get out smoothly. I have a story too. I suppose I'm looking for some sort of validation, as I have told several people the experience, but even loved ones think I'm gullible and believe in every paranormal anomaly. I spent enough time in the outdoors to consider myself an outdoorsman. At least I did up until 2011, when I had my experience. What I can tell you is that I have spent my share of time in the outdoors, and I used to feel at home in the woods. I've spent 25 years as a soldier/officer, and I am an educated and experienced person, so don't lack credibility. I've been on 2 combat deployments in Iraq, but the thing that bothers me most is the irrational and urgent sense/feeling of fear I felt that night, which was unequaled by time spent in a combat zone where I felt that I had some locus of control, whereas the night in question, I felt extremely vulnerable. Thanks for your time. If you have time, I'd love to compare notes and possibly feel that my story can be credible and validated. Thanks, Ryan M. Ray. Ryan, dude, Sasquatch story 3rd attempt and you didn't share it. That sucks. Damn it. Email me back, man. Please. Send it. Oh, shitty. Shitty. We want to hear it, man. You found your people. You found the safe place. All right. Who's next? All right, this next title I stopped recording because I thought I read it wrong, but I'm going to read as much of it as I can and leave out anything that may give hint to where these people may be, because it starts off with, please don't share my name, excuse me, or email title, but you may share first part about house whacking info. Okay. I wrote to you a couple of years ago concerned over bamboo, Japanese knotweed, bushes near my home being bent over and loud noises of something whacking the house. Once it was so loud on the back corner of a bedroom, shook like an earthquake. Well, I remember you saying if one is concerned about the creature Bigfoot being by one's home, to go listen to a certain guy for advice, and he spoke of praying, so I did. I prayed for protection in the name of Jesus, that his blood and spirit would cover our home, and I haven't heard a noise since. I also put movement outside light on in the winter. Okay, motion lights out in the winter. My husband used to go put out bones down by our barn, usually leftover chicken wings / leg bones from the Friday family gathering. He did it for the ravens that nest on a tower near us, but he started to see large animal tracks. Bear, bobcat, mountain lion. We live between highway blank, I'll leave it out, a hobby farm with a pond, stream going through, and woods behind the barn towards blank, 20k from the nearest city. Kilometers. Okay, I'm guessing you're in Canada. My husband stopped putting the bones out there due to large tracks. It was after that I heard the whacks on the side of the house. That made me wonder if Bigfoot upset about no more bones. We have had bear scat in our driveway last spring and just recently near our apple orchard, which makes me nervous to do gardening work, as the garden is just behind our apple orchard for about 7-8 trees. Many years ago, I remember weeding the corn in the garden that was just about 18 inches high. I felt something watching me, and it was the middle of the day. So I quit weeding and went inside. Trust your gut. I knew nothing of a possible Bigfoot, but knew bears could be in the region. Once my kids told us that police came into the local grocery store and told everyone to stay in the store as a black bear was sitting on the park bench outside by the bank, just a few buildings away. The next day, the corn was flattened as if something rolled in it. A friend said maybe a deer, a bear, Bigfoot? Have you ever heard of Bigfoot rolling around in someone's garden? So I'm a little bit nervous about both creatures. My son in his 20s has a carpenter shop down the barn. I'm praying for his protection too, as he sometimes walks up in the dark, but with a headband on his head. All right, there you go. All right, I appreciate that email. I don't think I shared too much. It's funny how many people they are so guarded, worried, isn't it? Teach your own. I'm not running anybody down. I'm just saying it's an interesting thing. I've always said it's interesting for me to watch humans rolling through this lifetime, right? It's funny. It's not funny. It's just it's odd for me. I hope everything's safe around your home. I hope nothing else more happens to disrupt your quality of life. But if you got anything you've learned or you hear about, send it on over. Send it over again. Trying to provide answers. Steve, I will go back and combine all the emails I've sent in response to questions and comments from your shows. I came in on you reading an email about Bergstrom Air Force Base in Austin. I lived here back at the time that was mentioned. Then you said you'd read it already. Well, I hadn't heard it. If you don't want to read it again, maybe forward it to me. For your whys, some truths, and more. Find my emails and Google Paul Anthony Wallace, his Eden series of books and interviews with all kinds of experts. They're available on YouTube, Fifth of Kind TV. Connecting explanations. Let me know if you received this and get your questions answered. All right, there you go. I guess I received it. There you go. There's a lot of people that boldly tell me they've got the answers. Just get a hold of me and I'll tell them to you. I believe I've got a lot of answers. We all have. Bit of an odd morning this morning, isn't it? All right, here we go. I don't know what this is about. It's not marked as read. From Trigger. A long truth. Hello, Steve. I need to straighten out a few things for one of the I need to straighten out some things for one, the ability to shift or time walk. Think of a fan. You see the blade, but then you start it, and the blades speed up, then vanish. The blade is still there, but you cannot see it. The frequency changed. Now more of the story. As I have said, father of Indian descent, he worked for the government. Me, a child of nature. Always out there in the woods, creeks, and the trees. Never afraid, still not. Always searching for answers to questions. One night on a weekend when I was 7 or 8, my brother was bow hunting and came home with a story of shooting a hairy thing in the woods, but came home with a snow owl. Later that night, we went to a sale, all-night flea market, and when he came home, something was waiting. I myself was tucked down on the back floor as I was told to get down. My father got out and conversed with it, as it stayed in the headlights. He was begging for my brother's life, swearing that he would never do that again. Dad then came to the car and got my brother out and dragged him in the light. And he begged for his life. He was sorry and would never go to that part of the woods again. Then they got back in the car. Dad to Mom, he would think about it and give an answer. What could he do? My brother wounded his mate, very angry. Next morning, a great horned owl was perched on the hitching post, and my father made my brother, who was crying, go to it and ask it for his answer. I watched from my third-floor window as he went and asked it the question. You could hear it screeching in the house, through the house, and flew off. Steve, he was huge. We could have easily carried him off. Dad said, lesson learned. It was many weeks before my brother would even go away from the house. So to say, no intelligence or no orals, no talking. Just is a false assumption. Still, we were banned from the creek for a while. I was never in danger. I walked or rode wherever I wanted. And later in life, I trapped about 5 miles of 2 creeks and swamps out at 3:30 in the morning, walking the line and do my chores. In the dark, you could hear them. In the snow, leaves, never seeing them, but knowing what they were. Father said, like us, but not yous. Free, he said. Confusing. Father said, like us, but not us. Free, he said. No ties, just family like we used to be, tribes. Before the losing of time, when we lost our way. But he said I was different, not so lost as them. My mom would always shut him up, telling him to stop before he scared me. I always knew things that I shouldn't. There was no way I should understand, but I did, and always got in trouble for it. Arguments with school teachers, asked not to return to church. All I did was ask for the truth. We were all told Adam and Eve, but what of Lilith, Adam's first wife? Ask that and the preachers lose their minds. Sons and daughters of her they are. At least that was what an old Southern Baptist preacher said when he was drunk. So on with the story. 1972, the story and making of a legend in these parts, anyway, was the Ringing Rocks Monster. A period of about 9 months where dogs and cats and rabbits and chickens so on went missing. Cages ripped apart, chains broke. Some doors to houses ripped off the hinges. Calls were made to reports almost every day in the paper. A big game hunter was hired, a skilled trapper, and hunt. He would get it. 5 weeks or so, traps ruined, lost, gone the bait. Finally, a story that they captured and killed a 75-pound wolverine. A good story. It was accepted. I did not believe it. I got in a lot of fights over it. No wolverines in PA. Not true. Mom said to leave it be. Just let it go. Children always misbehave, she said. They knew more, and I would press them for more. For now, just you. You're being watched. Be careful. More later. Bye for now, Trigger. Okay, Trigger. I'm all ears. Send me more. Send me what you know. It's a little awkward reading this morning, isn't it? Is it just to roll the dice, or is it just me? One more. This is titled My Sweet Experience. Hello, my name is Teresa and I live in Northwest Arkansas, right in the heart of Walmart country. We decided to move from our home city of 80,000 or so to a smaller one, not far away, but unfortunately growing bigger as we speak. Since we were using a big box truck rental to move, one of the guys would drive the truck and I would be in my car leading the way. The first time I turned onto the road, which was just a ways from the new house, I got this strong feeling to look to my left. There's nothing but a thick area of trees and a pond in the center. The tree line extended back along what I can only guess was a small creek running through the horse pasture. It couldn't have been more than 15 feet across all the way back, crossing fence lines as far as I could see. This urgency to look at that area around the pond happened every time I passed it. It was a strong, urgent feeling, and every time I passed, I saw nothing. This went on for at least 2 years. And then out of the blue, one day, as we came upon the area, I was no longer drawn to it. I was drawn to the other side of the street, where there was very little trees due to a housing development being built. The trees were few and far between. Then right after those were these very thin yearling trees, maybe 2 inches in diameter. Several of them in rows. I thought it was really weird that all of a sudden my mind had switched sides of the road. I mean, what's up with that? The very next morning, I had to leave for work early because I had to drive to a neighboring town several miles away. The sun had just barely come up. It was beautiful. Oranges and pinks along with a stunning blue. With the steering wheel in one hand and a coffee in the other, I was listening to Gretchen Wilson on the radio, getting my strong woman groove on before work. As I came upon the area, I was drawn to look, but not as strongly as usual. It may have been the coffee and the music distracting me. As I reached for the yearling trees, there he was, standing still, as if a huge statue among the trees. If those trees were planted 6 feet apart, then he was at least 5 feet across his shoulders, towering at least 9 to 10 feet tall. His head was huge and sat right on his big shoulders. He looked black and dark to lighter brown around the face. Huge hands hung down to around the tops of his knees. His arms looked like tree-sized bodybuilder arms. His legs looked the same. He stood out like a sore thumb. You couldn't miss him. I just stared as I went by. It was a good 6 to 10 seconds. After I got past him, I thought to myself, did I just see what I think I saw? When I pulled up to the stop sign just 60 yards away from him, I had to stop and concentrate on what I had just seen. Thank God for no traffic. That's when I realized I had I had been being prepared through mind speak for years for this moment. They knew I'd wanted to see one from a young childhood on. I've not had that need or that urgency to look at either side of that road since then. I didn't tell anyone about it for years, till I woke one snowy morning and looked out my upstairs bedroom window to see one huge footprint in the snow. Just one huge left foot next to my bird feeder, pointing straight towards the house. Just one. What the holy heck? I guess it was just a reminder, a big hello, I'm still here, don't forget me. Though no one in my household is really skeptical, I just had never told them about my previous experience. After the print, I knew he was visiting, so I fessed up to the family. They know me well enough to know that it's not to be joked about. I just want to thank you for all you do for us who know. The believers, the knowers. I've enjoyed your channel since its conception. People need to know. They need the knowledge before going out into the wilderness unprepared. I wish all encounters with the big people of the forest could be as pleasant and as innocently done as mine. But I know that not all are. I was very, very lucky. And thank you for all you're doing for your country. Stay strong and vigilant. Someone has to. I have the power of the right side with me in my country, so power up and power on. Let's clean these messes up. Respectively, Teresa. There you go, Teresa. Appreciate you sharing that one. Why, right? Why? Why did they do that for you? Why do they keep randomly picking people for the exposure? How come? How come? My mind is obviously racing today. There's so many thoughts in my brain. There's a lot of other topics that I follow. There's some very important things going on. They have been going on for some time now. And I know that there's going to be people on all different sides of stories following this channel when it comes to various global things going on. I'm done reading emails, so if I piss you off by speaking, you can leave now. There you go. But, I've been following everything intimately. I do have a very fine-tuned bullshit meter in me. Where to start? What should I even say? It's apparent I've been watching. Sometimes I watch the stats on my YouTube channel. Not that I give a flying F. But I notice when I do speak against some of the main narratives that the evil bastards are in control, or hopefully losing control of, but they're in fairly good control of it. They block people from subscribing to the channel instantly. It's kind of weird. It's weird to take note of. I took note of it a while back. I'm like, huh? What happened? It's getting like a couple hundred new people who are subscribing a day, and then it went to instant zero. And then I look back at what was talked about in the previous video. I'm like, oh, really? Really, you greasy, weak, cowardice bull. Anyway, so, and then I posted up a screenshot of it to show you guys yesterday, I think, on the community page. It's hard, though, when you know alarming truth that needs to be known by all the people. And I hope to God, I hope that the majority of you are skipping over mainstream news sources and you're looking and seeking out actual, true, qualified, caring, honest people when it comes to various topics in the world that affects you. And if it hasn't affected you yet, give your head a shake. It has. But I have a feeling right now there's possibly something really bad is going to happen. I'm not trying to alarm people, but how to even, I think we could all agree on one thing. Let me start here. I think we could probably all agree on one fact. And that fact is that, let's just take North America, okay? The leadership in North America are criminals. Right? Can we agree on that? It's pretty easy. it's pretty easy for you to do your own due diligence and look into that and prove me right or wrong. Just that one point. One point is the current leadership in North America is made of criminals. Right? Right. So, moving along. One question I would have now is just common sense. Why would you trust or believe what a criminal says to you when it comes to any topic? Ask yourself that. Why? How could you? How could you trust anything a criminal tries to deliver to you today? Right? Oh, well, the criminals, I know they're criminals, and they told us one thing, a couple years ago, and they're telling us another thing today, and they're still criminals. It doesn't matter what they say. As soon as you have confirmed for yourself that the leadership in just North America is made of criminals, then you shouldn't give them any respect to even listen to them for 10 seconds, 5 seconds. Right? That's just common sense, right? So, why would you listen to them when it comes to any topic? Ever. Now, I'm trying to give them a little tidbits to get up to where I'm going with this and where we are right now and why you should be concerned. That war that is raging, well, there's been nothing but wars raging nonstop around the world. But this one particular war that is raging, it is the criminal leadership. Criminals, we just agreed, right? We just agreed that our leadership in North America are criminals, right? That doesn't make them the good guys. Right? Picking up what I'm putting down? We've proven that our leadership is criminals. So when it comes to any kind of conflict anywhere in the world, that our current criminal leadership is taking part in, well, they're not the good guys. How could they be? They're criminals. They're not the good guys. Anyway, that one huge big country over there, the big one that starts with R, the leader, and I'm not saying that leader's good or bad. What I'm saying is I have listened and I've watched for and I've listened to that person speak for a number of years since this huge conflict's been going on, which threatens our quality of life. And he has said nonstop, I want to talk peace. I want to talk peace. Let's talk peace. And 100% reply from our criminals, as an example, and other ones, we're not talking. That's easily proven. You can look that up and confirm that for yourself. Okay? Very easily proven. And now try not to pull an emotional snap sandwich. What? You're a Putin apologist? Get back on track. We're having a rational discussion. Plain and simple truth. A bunch of the people I do listen to, they are military, European military, North American military, colonels, generals, analysts, political analysts, defense, war analysts, strategic defense, retired. The credentials go on. And 100% of them have all said there is no chance in hell that our criminal governments are going to win this war. It's not going to happen. They're not winning. They're not going to win. It's been forecasted since before they started it that they wouldn't be able to win this war. Now, what I'm getting at is one side continually, and just recently I listened to a live speech the other day. Said it all flat out. What's going on? How the one side will not talk peace. So what does that leave it? What does that leave it to? They won't talk peace and they're getting ran over. So now we've got criminals. Right? Let's get back to the beginning of the conversation. We have criminals supporting and encouraging war. And also encouraging to not speak peace. I don't give a flying fuck who or what side anybody's on or what country, who it is. When you've got two sides murdering hundreds of thousands of young innocent people who aren't going to have a chance at a quality life experience now because of this war and more wars. You've got these people not wanting to speak and have peace, and they're losing, and they're criminals. What do desperate pieces of shit do when they're starting to lose? They get desperate, they do desperate things, right? You got these sons of bitches that are talking about pulling the trigger on a nuclear bomb. And I hate to say it, but I'm actually concerned that they're going to do it. I got a shitty gut feeling that they're going to fucking do it. These psychopaths who refuse to explore peace. These criminals. I have a funny feeling, I got a shitty gut feeling they're about to do something like that. What they've already done, they should all be swinging from branches for. Every one of them. Anyway, my God, if what I could do, how could I do it? If I could only motivate all of you, all of the good people in the world to just take these people who are responsible for all this horse shit and roll them up into a ball and throw them in the compactor, the garbage compactor, right? And then there's only like maybe, 10 people? 10 human beings tops. If they were eliminated, everybody would be rocking out and having a party around the planet. It's fact. And a lot of those people are here in North America, right? Anyway, I don't know what I'm saying. I just wish I could stop all this. I wish I could show everyone. I wish I could encourage everyone to look for absolute truth from good people, follow your gut instinct. But this needs to stop. I guess that's maybe what I'm trying to say. Is it just needs to stop now? It needs to stop now. And you go online the odd time and look at the shit show going on online and what a lot of people are focusing on and doing with their free time, and it's just like, oh my good God, we're doomed. We're doomed, right? So many people aren't paying attention. So many people aren't paying attention, just lining up and doing what they're told, and not being fed the truth. It's being somewhat hidden from the majority of us, but listen to me go, right? I'm trying to bite my lip. I'm surrounded with truth tellers 24/7. I'm hearing from them all the time. I talk to many truth seekers. Rich Jameau is one of them too. Me and Rich talked about this topic for quite some time before we hit record and talked about the Sasquatch topic on here. But if you could, look into it. If you're confused right now, or if you are emotionally weak and all you're doing is trying to point out what that country that starts with R has done, and then that's it, you flatline. You might want to pull that cork out of your brain and have a look at what's truly going on. It's not good. It's not good. This is so bad. What's going on right now is so bad, and it has a lot more attention from me than the topic that dominates what we have been successfully speaking a lot about, which is it's a big topic for me. It's a big violation of life for me, for all of you and all these outdoor people that I know and people around the world who have these experiences, and it potentially ruins their quality of life. And as I said before, John Smith down the road, he deserves to have that choice of whether or not he may potentially expose his children to a 10-foot tall, hairy, unacknowledged being over there camping for the weekend. But he doesn't, because the truth's not being shared. That's my motivation for this topic. So you can imagine my passion and motivation when it comes to other truths that I'm aware of because of my own due diligence in digging and not listening to anyone dictating shit to me. Nobody tells me who my enemies are. Nobody tells me who to be angry at. Nobody tells me what to inject in my body. Ever. But as soon as you can accept right now the simple fact that the leadership in North America is made of absolute dark, evil criminals. Then you should be able to change your focus and change your mind on various topics that they throw down in your face and promote nonstop. Right? Ask yourself that question. How can you listen to a criminal when it comes to your health, your quality of life, or what you should be doing with your life? How the fuck do you do that? How? And why are you doing it? Why are you taking direction and being led by criminals? It's amazing, it's sad, it's very, very frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. I've had a real issue with evil people all my life. Lost a lot to evil people. And I guess in a way I've dedicated my life to fighting back. You know, it's funny on another topic. Did you know that all of the major manufacturers of the mandatory this thing just came out and admitted, and they just delivered an apology to all the people because they didn't look into the side effects of what they created before they forced it into people. They just did that, right? Actually, it was a company with one of the largest criminal fines in business history. That's kind of funny, isn't it? Rich Germeau was just sharing with me earlier the other day how many people are dropping dead just around his community. You can ignore all this shit if you want. I don't know why you would. But it's all out there. There's people dropping dead like crazy just from that move that the criminals forced on everyone. Right? The criminals. Who else? Remember that little midget, that little son of a bitch in the American Health Department? Starts with an F. His last name F-A-U-C. Fought. Denied. American money funding the gain of function. Then they just admitted it's true. Well, gain of function. Is it amazing that a human being would even be allowed to do that today? Manipulating a virus so that it'll be more effective against human beings. Holy shit. Right? Conspiracy theories! You actually got that other worm, Bill Gates. They got him on video right in front for all you guys to see, saying flat out, we got to get the population down. Really? Really? Well, you're a billionaire and you're feeling a little crowded, are you? In this beautiful place? There's no conspiracy there. People are being intentionally killed on the planet by these criminals. Right. By these criminals. But anyway, I'm getting off track. I could go on and on and on. I hold it in all the time. I do pretty good on here. I hold it in quite a bit. And I like to think that the majority of you here think for yourself and do your own due diligence and don't jump on bandwagons, and you're not scared of people, right? You're not scared to speak. I know we did do a survey on here, and I'm not knocking anybody who took it. So my best friends did, first responders, they had to, worked in labs, had to, and even today they say all 100% across the board, wish they didn't, and they will never do it again, no matter what. And some of them have cancer now. Friends very close and dear to me. Got another friend of mine, military. All the military had to take that. He got every single one of those shots. He got 4 times. How does that make sense? Oops, did I say the C word? Guess my subs are going to get chopped off today, aren't they? Oh, well, I don't give a flying shit. Never asked for them anyway. There's some very, very, very bad dark sons of bitches here in North America today, creating a lot of human grief and pain, not only here but around the world. And I have a shitty feeling that they're about to pull the trigger on something immense and very bad because they're losing and they're desperate. And they still are refusing to talk peace. And there's only one direction to go now, if you've been following that conflict over there. There's only one direction to go now, and that's it. Do not go past go. What's it called? Do not return it, whatever. Do not pass go. This is it. This is it. How do you motivate people today to really, really seriously do something? You know what I mean? Just go bite my lip again. But how do you motivate people to think for themselves, not be told who your enemy is by a criminal? Think for yourself. Be encouraged to be happy and do what you love to do and rock this lifetime out and make sure that it's just a frickin' party in all communities. Because it should be. That's what life should be. It should be a frickin' awesome, free, spirited, freedom of movement, freedom to have fun, work hard, be fair, don't be evil, don't be dark, don't lie, manipulate, or use, steal, don't kill people. We're supposed to be here to have a frickin' awesome time, you know? And there's some people out there who are successfully making it a real shitty time for a lot of people. And they're successfully making sure that a lot of people die. And they're also using people to die for them. Rambling here, aren't I? This is one of my Olympian rambles, isn't it? Anyway, if you're confused or your brain is weak enough to make you think that you need to lash out for what I'm saying today, maybe if you have it in you, slow down and take it from the bottom step again. First, all you have to do is prove to yourself whether or not the current people occupying government in North America are criminals or not. Step number 1, lesson of the day, kids. That's all you have to do. That will clean up anything you're confused about across the board when it comes to main topics that have been thrown down our throats the past 2 years. 3, whatever. Just look into that one. Just bypass everything else. Try to collect your feelings, your emotions back in, and just try to see if, possibly, there's any examples of the current leadership in North America being criminals. And then take it from there. And then ask yourself questions from there. Once you've proven to yourself whether or not they're criminals, and if you do come up with, yep, they're fucking criminals, then you better ask yourself why you followed any kind of direction or lead from them or knowledge sharing from them when it comes to any topic. And why would you? Why would you actually do that? Right? And then take it from there. And then question all the things you may have promoted or supported or not in the past few years and how it may have affected you and your life and your friends, your relationships. And then try to trace it back to where that information came to you. How'd your brain go there? To possibly go against friends or neighbors or family or another country. How'd your brain go there? How did you come up with that position? Hope I'm making sense. I don't give a shit if I'm making sense or not. I'm having one of those moments. I'm just frustrated. There's criminals. Criminals are making these decisions. We actually have criminals right now talking about going like this and hitting that button. We have criminals right now who refuse to speak peace, even though they're in a war that won't be won by criminals, by these criminals. Now they're going to take it to the next stage. What are you going to do about this? Right? You're going to go back to your TikTok videos or your Instagram videos and posts and scrolling? Well, as long as they keep doing this, it's not happening, right? Can't be, because look at all these funny people doing all this funny shit online. Nobody's even talking about this. As long as they keep doing this, everything's good, right? It's not good. It's not good right now. And anyway, that was a ramble and a half, wasn't it? And I'm not apologizing for it. If I could really cut loose with my mouth right now, holy shit. Holy shit. If I could really cut loose with my mouth right now, it would be kind of ugly, but whatever. Anyway, there you go. I'll be back again tomorrow. I'm going to share more people's truth. We're going to help people. Continue to help people. As long as this lasts. I don't know how much longer this will last. But I'm not going to stop. because I can do this. But my God, please, could you please, if you're confused in any way, just for lesson number 1, if I had a class right now, lesson number 1, hey, could you just go out of your way to prove whether or not the current leadership in North America is made up of criminals or not? And as soon as you get your answer, then ask yourself, why would you follow their lead or listen to anything they had to share with you, ever? And that'll be question number 2. Okay? And then that should hopefully clear up any confusion you may have of various global events going on today. All right? And then maybe even you can take it a few steps further and band together and be a strong community again of good people and erase these MFers. And stop before they ruin everything. I want to go traveling. I want to meet happy people in far off countries. I want to go fishing. I want to go on my remote hunts. I want to have fun. I want to grow chickens in my backyard and turkeys and food. I want to rip the rubber off the back tires of my 68 Camaro that I bought years ago and was my dream car. I want to have fun. I want to hear from all of you. I want to talk about cool shit. I want to see cool shit. I want to video stuff and share stuff and live this life to the max with the time I have left. And I want to help people do the same. But how are we going to do that when there's criminals? When there's criminals doing all this dark, dirty, frickin' shit to us. Right? There you go. I'll be back tomorrow.